Since we're in the midst of a world war, prices of oil are going up, there is no cooking gas anywhere, and we had one of the worst Oscars in the last so many years. The fact really important Supreme Court ruling has largely gone unrecognized is understandable. But I just thought I'd like to talk about it. 33-year-old Harish Rana now has been given the power to die with dignity. And while that seems counterintuitive, it's an argument that dates all the way back to ancient Greece. Because the word euthanasia, which is what we're talking about here, actually comes from two Greek words put together. Eu meaning good and thanasia coming from thanatos meaning death. Effectively meaning that you give somebody a good death. And while most ancient Greeks were pretty okay with the idea, Plato and Socrates being amongst those who were completely on board for it, Aristotle and Hippocrates, because of which we stand up at the end of our 5.5 years of MBBS and repeat a number of lines one after the other, didn't seem to be so much on board, so much so as the Hippocratic Oath, including the phrase, "The physician will not administer any drugs knowingly to cause harm to any patient." This aspect of philosophy and death gets carried over into religion as well, because Christianity itself is against any form of the taking of a life. The three arguments which are usually laid out in favor of euthanasia being illegal include the fact that Christians believe that life does not belong to us or the physician, but in fact belongs to God, which means any act against it is considered to be an act of heresy. The fact that it disrupts our sense of community and it goes against the fundamental human principle of self-preservation. And as Christianity spread all over Europe and Europe consequently spread all around the world, those same laws get spread and get incorporated into the laws of various countries. That is until the 1800s, when the discovery of anesthetics brought up the question again. Now, that brings us to the US in the 1990s, where a controversial figure called Dr. Jack Kevorkian, who at the time was a pathologist, but I guess microscopes didn't interest him too much, so he decides to look into the philosophy of death. And he's of the firm opinion that as we have the freedom to live life on our terms, we should have the freedom to embrace death on our terms as well. However, ardent supporters of euthanasia in the US try to distance themselves from him because he would go one step further and participate in what is essentially either active euthanasia, if you look at it that way, or physician-assisted suicide. And while he was a controversial figure, he did bring a lot of publicity into the whole Euthanasia Act. He did shine a spotlight and give a lot of public push to legalization of euthanasia. The most progressive outlook is probably that of the Netherlands, who have legalized euthanasia in several forms, and it is a pretty big part of their whole medical network. Coming back to our own nation, the rules are very clear. Euthanasia is only allowed if it's passive euthanasia, which means that you withdraw life-saving support for patients, and it's usually applicable only for those who have been in a vegetative state for a number of years. And even that involves a high court order and two separate medical boards which certify that there is no further treatment that's possible and the chances of improvement are practically nil. This was all a result of a 2011 ruling from the Supreme Court, wherein a petitioner asked if euthanasia could be provided for a patient of persistent vegetative state. And while the petition itself was struck down, the framework that is in use to this day came out of that. This is the first time that it has been put into actual clinical use, which in itself is a pretty big landmark. And I hope at least, it brings a glimmer of positivity for the families and the patients who have been suffering from a persistent vegetative state for a very long time.